We are back. We are back with another episode like we never left for an entire month. Me and Sean went through the ringer the last month. We both got sick at one point and life just got busy. So we're back now. Episode 34, Banter from the Bench podcast. We are going to actually dive pretty heavily into NBA talk today. We just had the NBA draft. We got NBA free agency kind of popping off here a little bit. We'll dip a little bit into NHL free agency and the NHL draft recap, but it'll be a lot of NBA talk today. And then who knows where we'll go from there. So, Sean, let's get ready to roll.
Sound straight.
Yeah, back like we never left for a month plus. But regardless, glad to be back and hopping on here for another episode. If we have a lot of NBA fans that have stuck around through the intro, welcome to our probably biggest NBA talk we'll have in an episode. And if you left and you're not an NBA fan, good riddance. It's all good. But first order of business here to talk about is the NBA draft. So I had the NBA draft last week and feel like it kind of not too many surprises early on until we started getting later on in the draft. But perhaps maybe where we'll start is Ace Bailey. He was the talk heading into the draft about guidance or lack thereof from his agent about forcing his way to certain places. It sounded like he wanted to go to either Washington, New Orleans, or Brooklyn in that 6, 7, 8 range. And the Jazz said, you know what? Screw it. We're taking you at 5. It seemed like a little bit of drama there for a bit. He wasn't reporting to Utah right away, but ended up going there and now has been talking about how excited he is to be a part of the Jazz. So what are your thoughts on Ace Bailey, his whole situation, and ultimately his landing spot?
I mean, I think it's a slam dunk for the Jazz, right? Like the Jazz haven't had a dog in so long.
They got
Um,
2.
I guess their last one was oh God, he's on the Cavs now. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell. Ace Bailey's really exciting. I think he's going to be a great NBA player. If they can find a way to keep each other happy, then that'll be huge for the Utah Jazz. I kind of like that they just went and you were like, too bad. Like whether you want to be here or not, we're going to draft you. We see value in you, and we want to kind of like earn your respect. I love it. I think it's a great move by the Jazz. I honestly think it's one of the best picks of the entire night.
Yeah, I don't know if I've talked about it on this podcast, but I know you and I have talked about it before. I really like Ace Bailey. I've said that if I had the second pick in the draft, I would probably take Ace Bailey. I think I see a lot of Kevin Durant in him. I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. Now, I don't think he's quite getting off to a hot start with all the stuff surrounding him heading into the draft, but good for Utah just sticking to their guns and saying we're going to take him regardless. I think when we look back on things, him sliding down to 5th overall will be, I don't know, you can call it a steal or
Good
incredibly
value.
good value at that spot. So I like that. I know one of his demands, I guess we'll call it, was that he wanted to be the guy wherever he went. And he is going to a roster in Utah where he can probably be the guy. They have Lowry Markkinen, who's kind of fallen off a little bit over the last year, maybe a little bit longer. And then they got guys like Walker Kessler and Kyle Filipowski. So primarily just bigs. It seems like they're maybe thinking about dealing a guy like Walker Kessler. So Utah's kind of committed to that youth movement, and I think he's going to a spot where he can eventually be the guy. So good spot for him. But rounding out, we'll go the picks before him. Obviously, Cooper Flag went number 1. No surprise there. They had his jersey on sale in store, I think, that night. So they clearly printed those ahead of time. Dylan Harper to the Spurs at number 2. Think that's a very interesting fit considering they have Stephon Castle from a year ago. So loading up on guards there, but obviously they're not going to be a team that's looking at a big man when they got Victor Wembanyama. So now the draft kind of started at 3, and Philly took VJ Edgecombe. I know you kind of have some thoughts on him. Why don't you talk about VJ Edgecombe for the people a little bit?
I think he's a little raw, but I think that honestly he's right up there with Ace Bailey. I think he's got potential to be the best pick in this draft. I mean, obviously Cooper Flag's kind of in like his own field, right? But like when you take Cooper Flag out of the picture, I think VJ Edgecombe has the potential to be the best pick in this draft. He plays very hard on both sides of the court. He needs to work on his shooting a little bit. He's been kind of like a more of like a slasher type of player, get to the rim, create contact, get to the free throw line type of play. But I think that there's a lot of potential with VJ Edgecombe. And honestly, a lot of people hate on the 76ers. And Joel Embiid's a large part of that. But I think this is a really good place for him. And I think he'll be a great NBA player in the future.
He's going to have to be able to handle critics, that's for sure. Those Philly fans can be rough. But I think one thing that he'll bring no matter what, he's going to play good defense. So I'm sure Philly will like that. That'll keep him on the court. What he's going to be offensively, time will tell. He's athletic. He can, like Kevin was saying, he can attack the rim. He can dunk. But what he's going to become outside of that, we'll see. But either way, I mean, we've seen a lot of guys make a strong living just being able to play tough defense and being valuable that way. So I think he's got a good future ahead of him there. I like that pick for Philly. I think if they could have taken Ace Bailey, maybe that would have been where he went. But clearly they had other plans. Now, Con Knippel going to the Charlotte Hornets at number 4. Was that a surprise to you? Do you kind of expect that?
Yeah, I kind of expected that. They kind of just need they have LaMelo, but like LaMelo's health is always really questionable. They just need like a flat out shooter and a guy that can just high volume type of guy. And I think he's the perfect fit for them.
Yeah, and it kind of seemed like they really liked him throughout the process. It seemed like they really focused in on him with their visits and their scouting and stuff. And
they like the nipples.
Yeah. I mean, hey, he's staying in North Carolina, so they didn't have to go too far to watch him. So yeah, I'm sure they got a lot of looks at him. Trey Johnson went to the Washington Wizards with the 6th pick. I think that was kind of expected. Washington was going to take whoever fell to them at 6. Jeremiah Fears going to the Pelicans at 7. Local Illinois guy there. I don't know if that was a surprise or not. His stock really rose towards the end of the season. He kind of caught fire as Oklahoma did and really built up his stock there. So I think that's an exciting fit for New Orleans, given what they did later on in the draft, which we'll get to, unless you want to just talk about it now since we're on the topic of New Orleans.
That's fine. You can dive into them.
I know you felt pretty excited about what they did. So their other pick they made was, let me find it.
Derek Queen.
Yeah, I'm just looking at where exactly
number
he went.
13.
13th overall. They took Derek Queen, a center, out of Maryland. I love this pick, and let me tell you why. Him and Zion, no gumbo is safe in New Orleans. They are going to tear up that town. In all seriousness, I think it'll be fun watching that. They kind of got an interesting group. Who knows what'll happen with Zion? He's been floated around in trade rumors. I don't know if they're really super set on committing to him longer than they already are, just based off his health and conditioning and all that stuff. But I mean, when you look at it, they got Jeremiah Fears, they got now Derek Queen, they're bringing in Zion Williamson. They got a couple other good players too. I'm going to pull up their roster here. They still got a ways before they're, I wish I could finish typing, before they're really going to be competing for a title, but I mean, they're building something here. Let's see who else they got here. Bruce Brown's gone. Herb Jones is pretty good. CJ McCollum's gone. Deontay Murray they still have. Else. Yep. Deontay Murray, who I believe he's hurt. I don't know if he's going to miss the whole year or not. I can't remember his exact injury. Yves Missy, he's a center. People like him, but he might be on the trade block. Trey Murphy's another good player. And then perhaps the biggest piece of them all, Antonio Reeves.
That's my dog.
So
Um,
kind of an interesting roster, but one that you can look at and say, all right, they might be onto something.
you know what this roster needed, and this is exactly what you're getting with Derek Queen, is they needed some physicality. And like, yeah, sure, you kind of get that with Zion. He's not really like too big in the post. He kind of just likes to throw down big dunks and kind of shoot mid range or shoot threes. But you get a lot of physicality with Derek Queen, and I think that that's what this team needed desperately. So um, I think it was a great pick. I think the Pelicans did a great job drafting with the resources that they had, and they traded up to come back in and get Derek Queen. So props to them there. Sean, I have a question I want to propose to you, and actually I have two when it comes to the draft this year. Who was
Yep.
your first pick of this year's draft, where they announced the name and they announced the team, and you just sat there and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Um,
I have a feeling we're
okay.
going to say the same name.
I have two. I got to look up the other one. Okay. Let me find where's the other one. Where'd you go, buddy? Okay, there it is. All right, number one, Igor Demin or
Yeah,
Yegor Demin, however you pronounce it, going 8 overall to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, he's been projected a lottery pick for a long time. That's not a surprise. I'm surprised he went before some of the other names that went after him. Colin
same.
Murray Boyles, Kamen Maluak, Derek Queen, Carter Bryant. So, kind of surprised that that was the pick there. That was one surprise. And then the other one who surprised a lot of people apparently was Yang Hansen, the center from China, who I
Yeah.
believe was made by the Grizzlies, but maybe traded to Portland. I don't know. Or maybe he is a Grizzlies pick. Um,
Um, he
I think
is
he went.
traded to Trailblazers.
Okay, so that was kind of surprising. And when I say surprising, I'm not an NBA draft guru. I truly never heard of him before. And based off the way ESPN, when I was watching it, which by the way, another topic, but brutal product.
Yeah.
Um, ESPN seemed very surprised he went that high. I think they maybe had like a late second round grade on him. So that was the other one where I was truly like, wow, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, mine was Igor Devin too. I think he's a good player. I think he's going to be a pretty good NBA player. I wouldn't say like all-star. I would say like, I don't know, either a good role player or like a really solid six-man type of situation for him. I just think eighth overall is that's pretty high to be taking him. I think he could have dropped to like 15 to 18 range.
Yep.
So that one was pretty confusing. A
Unless
name,
unless there was a team before their next pick that they knew he's not going to be there,
I mean,
but still, even trade back.
it could have been the Raptors because the Raptors are really good at developing guys, and they might have looked at him and were like, "Yeah, like we see a lot of value in you," and they had the next pick. So maybe the Nets were just like, "No." Raptors surprised me with Colin Murray Boyles.
They
Um,
surprised him too.
yeah, go, going ninth overall. I like his upside, but ninth overall, I was kind of surprised about. I saw him right in the Bulls range, actually. I saw him like 10 to 12, maybe 14 at the latest, but he went ninth overall. And then the pick after that, Kamen Maluak going to the Suns right after they traded for Mark Williams was a really
Yeah.
interesting move. I mean, it literally happened like minutes between each other. So really
Kevin and I
interesting
were
move.
Kevin and I were texting during the draft, and as the Suns were on the clock, I sent him that Mark Williams trade because we were kind of hoping Malawak would be there for the
Yeah.
Bulls. And I texted him that trade once I went through, and I said, "Well, we know they're not taking Malawak now." And
Yeah.
then, sure enough, I think I followed that up with, "Well, I'll go fuck myself."
Yeah. That's exactly who they had their eyes on this whole time.
Yeah,
Um,
what an odd string of moves there. But Mark Williams is obviously very good. Health's an issue with him, and I think Malawak's going to be a very good NBA player too. So I don't know if they have plans to eventually run both of them out there, but Suns loading up on big men in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, and another question I had for you, Sean, is who was a pick in this year's draft? I'll make you pick only one here that you were really surprised by, but you actually love the fit.
All right, let me do some looking around here.
I can give you mine if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Okay. I for me it was Carter Bryant. This
Okay.
is a guy. I mean, and I'll explain in a second. This is a guy I wasn't really too high on for the Bulls specifically, because they kind of struggle with developing players. So I kind of looked at him and I was like, I don't think he would be the best fit for the Bulls. But him in San Antonio, I think, is an absolutely perfect scenario for him. I
Hmm.
think he's going to do very well in San Antonio. He's 19 years old. He just went 14th overall. He's pretty versatile. I really really like the fit for the Spurs there.
Yeah, I think when you look at teams that won the draft, just look getting Dylan Harper and Carter Bryant, it's hard not to consider the Spurs a team that is considered a winner of the draft. But obviously, we got a lot of time before we truly know, who did well, who didn't do well. But Spurs would definitely be up there. I think one for me, and it's a little bit different of an answer, is Kasparis Jakuchonis going
Yeah.
to the Miami Heat at 20. Surprising because I didn't think he would be there. Really like that fit too. People kind of see a little bit of Goran Dragic in his game.
Mhm.
Goran Dragic, granted, was towards the end of his career, but he had a lot of success in Miami. So I think that they'll be able to develop him pretty well. They have a pretty nice roster currently for him to be able to step in and be a playmaker, be a facilitator. And don't get me wrong, he can score too, but it'll maybe take a little bit of development to get that rounded out for him at the NBA level. Bonus one, Johan Beringer to the Timberwolves at 17. He's a project, but I like that he's going behind Rudy, assuming that they don't trade him as of right now. Being able to play behind another French center, I think that's a good fit for him, but he's going to be a long ways from really making an impact. But I think that's a good start for him in his career.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Um, Yakuchonis, I think he landed in a pretty nice situation too because he kind of have a hole at point guard. So I think he should get some meaningful playing time. Don't forget, Sean, Summer League starts soon. So next
Yeah, like
week's
this weekend.
episode, we might have to have. Is it this weekend?
There is one starting this weekend, I believe.
Oh, we have.
California, I want to say.
I mean, we have to pick our summer league squads again this year. Me and Sean, we'll do it offline. Me and Sean will pick our squads offline, and we'll just be honest next episode on who we picked and how they do. But we forgot to dive into that before.
Hang
All
on,
right,
hang. We're I'm seeing if some rosters are out. Are they all out?
let's see.
Let's
Summer
see.
league teams 2025.
Yeah, we
Uh,
got games
yeah,
starting.
it's only like four teams that start this weekend. I think. Let's see if I can try and find the rosters.
NBA Summer League 2025 roster tracker.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some digging
They're
here.
not they're not completely out yet.
Got it. Okay. We'll just do some digging off air and
Oh,
pick our team.
I'll tell you what though, them Chicago Bulls are looking fun.
Dude, yeah. It depends on how much Modest plays, but yeah, no, they
They'll
could be
play like a
really.
game.
And I think so too. Um, okay, well then let's jump into free agency recap. We broke this down into two sections. First is who do we think did well in free agency this year? And Sean's got a list of, players that these teams acquired or players that they lost in free agency. Um, First one is the Atlanta Hawks. I'm just looking at it right now. Their additions were Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard, and Kristaps Porzingis. They lost Clint Capella, possibly. Oh no, he signed with the Rockets.
No, he's gone.
Karis
Yeah,
Karis LeVert, Larry Nance, George Yang, and Terrence Mann. Um, a lot happening here for the Hawks. I I really like the Kristaps Porzingis move. I don't think that that's something I really saw on the horizon for them, but to pair him with Trey Young, I think could be really fun and exciting.
Yeah, the Hawks are having a good offseason. Nikhil Alexander Walker's a role player who had quite a few guys interested in him, and they were able to win those sweepstakes. Kristaps Porzingis is another good move. They also did draft Asa Newell out of Georgia, so they got a couple of big guys that they're bringing in there. So yeah, I like what they're doing. Who else? So they lost Levert. Luke Kennard's a good, probably bench piece for them. He'll provide scoring, ideally when Trey Young's off the floor. So I like that move too. Just a 1 year deal, so nothing too crazy that they're investing in. But yeah, I would say Atlanta's probably one of the bigger offseason winners so far, and I like what they're doing.
Next team we've got here is Charlotte Hornets. They re-signed Trey Mann. They added Pat Connaughton, Spencer Dinwiddie, Mason Plumlee, and Colin Sexton, and they lost Yusuf Nurkic and Mark Williams to the Suns. A lot of movement here for Charlotte. Their roster looks pretty interesting. I'm actually gonna pull that up, Sean, while you dive into your thoughts on the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, just kind of an interesting slew of moves that they're making. They're bringing in a few guards with Dinwiddie, Sexton. I think Mann plays guard as well, or at least he did in college and for a few years early on in his NBA career. Obviously, they got Con Knipple, who they drafted. So they're kind of, I don't know, they're adding some scorers. I think that they're not going to be good, but they'll be more watchable in my opinion. They got a long ways to go, but they got some good pieces that they're bringing on. I just think it'll still be quite a bit of time before they really start contending.
They're pretty deep, dude. They might. I mean, I think they have like 45 guys on their roster right now, but they're pretty deep. They've got LaMelo Ball. They've got Miles Bridges. They just added Pat Connaughton. They've got Seth Curry, Spencer Dinwiddie, our boy Taj Gibson. They drafted Ryan Kalkbrenner and Con Knipple. They re-signed Trey Mann. They also drafted Liam McNeely from UConn. They still have Brandon Miller. They have Josh Okogie, and then they have Grant Williams. So they're pretty damn deep. I'm kind of impressed with the roster Charlotte's put together. Now, this could be a team that maybe they're kind of on the bubble of like the play-in. But I don't really see like incredible things for them this year. But overall, kind of a fun roster.
Yeah, East isn't that hard, so at least I think they're in the East.
I think so. They haven't been in the playoffs in so damn long. I don't even know. Next team is who do we like? Denver Nuggets. Sean, this was one that you said you liked. So they re-signed Dante Exum and Kyrie Irving. He got a 3-year extension. They added D'Angelo Russell, and then they lost Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah, I like what Denver did, trading Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson. I think that's a pretty big win for Denver. I just think Cam Johnson will fit what they want to do a little bit better. I love Jonas Valanciunas as a backup big man potentially. I don't know what their starting lineup will look like, but I mean that dude he's solid. He just always puts up respectable numbers. Being able to play with Jokic is going to be good for him. They're going to be rebounding a shit ton. And then Bruce Brown, obviously, he was a big part of their championship team. Them being able to bring him back is pretty important for their fans and for their team. Obviously, things haven't gone quite as they hoped since they won their title. So bringing back a fan favorite and a good bench piece like Bruce Brown helps them out quite a bit. So I like what they're doing. I really like that Porter for Cam Johnson trade too.
You know what I just realized? I was talking about the Denver Nuggets and I read the moves that the Dallas Mavericks made. So
I heard Denver Nuggets and just went with it.
So to recap, Denver, additions: Bruce Brown, Cam Johnson, Tim Hardaway, and Jonas Valanciunas. They lost Michael Porter Jr. and Dario Saric. So that is the Nuggets. Next team, Houston Rockets. I mean, everybody's kind of keeping an eye on the Houston Rockets right now. They have a lot, so get ready. So they re-signed Steven Adams, Aaron Holiday, Jeff Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Jay Sean Tate, Fred VanVleet. They also added Clint Capella, Kevin Durant, and Dorian Finney-Smith. They lost Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green via the trade with the Suns. A lot's happening here with Houston. I mean, if you look at their overall roster, it's
They're deep.
yeah, they're really, really deep. I mean, they're talking about kind of floating Cam Whitmore. I've seen the Bulls attached to him, so you could probably remove his name. But like, they still have Reed Shepherd, one of the top picks in last year's draft. Tari Eason has been a big part for them. Alperen Sengun, I think is how you say his name.
He's awesome.
He's awesome, dude. He flies under the radar so much. So, Houston Rockets are about to be back into the spotlight.
Yeah, coming off being the 2 seed in the West, and all they did was just get significantly better, add Kevin Durant, and round out their bench. So they'll be fun to watch. I think they got big expectations this year with all that they're doing. So
Next team, Milwaukee Bucks. They've also got a mouthful here. So they re-signed Kevin Porter Jr., Bobby Portis, Torian Prince, Jericho Sims, and Gary Trent Jr. They also added Vasile Micic, Miles Turner from the Pacers, and Gary Harris. They lost Pat Connaughton, they lost Damian Lillard, and they lost Brooke Lopez. Miles Turner on the Bucks, assuming that the Greek Freak comes back, I think is a really nice addition. I just wonder how much gas this team has left, man. Like, if this was early Bucks, I'd be like, oh, title contender. But like, I just wonder how much gas they have left.
yeah, they've had a really interesting offseason, and it kind of goes both ways. Miles Turner going there was a little bit of a surprise. I think his contract's not too bad, but
No.
I really thought he would stay in Indiana. Maybe with Halliburton's Achilles injury, that changed things for him, because you can kind of wash next year up as a loss for the Pacers, and maybe Turner's just at the point now where he's like, I just want to win, and Milwaukee gave him that opportunity. They're keeping some of their depth around, which is good, but the thing that I worry about with them is they've already tried with this depth in a lot of these guys. So, what's going to change now? Obviously, bringing in a new name like Miles Turner is going to help for sure, but is he the answer to help get Giannis over the hump? And is Damian Lillard that bad to where they want nothing to do with him coming off an injury? So, going to be kind of an interesting team to follow. I'm not quite sure how I feel overall about their offseason, but definitely going to be a team I'll be keeping an eye on next year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think they're either going to sink or swim, right? Like, I think they're either going to play really well and Miles Turner will look really nice, or they're going to be selling big time at the deadline. I don't think there's any in between with that team right now. Next team that I followed for a large part of my life, the Orlando Magic. They added Desmond Bane, which was huge for them. They added Tyus Jones, kind of a small depth piece there. They lost Cole Anthony, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's one of my least liked players in the league, and Gary Harris. So they didn't lose a ton. Overall, their roster looks really nice. They had a pretty good season for them last year as well. I think they'll flirt with the playoffs this year and potentially work their way up to like even possibly a 4 seed. They got Jace Richardson, the guard out of Michigan State. They have Desmond Bane now, Jalen Suggs, Paolo Banchero. They got that boy Mac McClung, Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner,
Mo's
Wendell.
gone.
Mo is okay. So they got
Yep.
Fran Wagner, who's the better of the two, anyways.
Yeah.
Wendell Carter
Criminal.
Jr. and then that boy Goga Bidaje, or however the hell you say his last name, who had a really nice season last season. So Magic could be a team to watch.
They desperately needed shooting. They got that in Desmond Bane. They're probably hoping Richardson's going to give them a little bit more of that as a rookie. But biggest question with them now, what's Paulo's health going to look like? He's been healthy up until this past year, but he was really banged up this year, and they certainly felt that. So Paulo's awesome. Such a good player. So much fun to watch. If he stays healthy, I do like Orlando making some noise out in the East this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see them as a top 4 seed. And then finally, the Phoenix Suns. So let me get to Phoenix. They re-signed Colin Gillespie. They added Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, Nigel Hayes-Davis, and Mark Williams. Lost Kevin Durant, Tyus Jones, Cody Martin, Vasile Micic, and Mason Plumlee. I mean, you take Kevin Durant out of the picture, I think they added more than they lost. Even Kevin Durant considered, I think he's going to take a turn here soon. Like, if it's not this season, it's next in terms of, like, what type of player he is at this point in his career. Phoenix, their roster looks really interesting too. Sean, I will let you talk about your impression of the Suns, and I'll pull their roster up.
They need to make a move still. They need to get rid of Jalen Green or Bradley Beal, and it's seeming like it's probably going to be Bradley Beal, just because I have a hard time getting behind Jalen Green, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker being on the same team. That's 3 guys who want the ball in their hands all the time, and you only play with one basketball last time I checked. So I think that would maybe cause some issues. Bradley Beal especially just seems like he's kind of turning into, I don't know, a little bit of a problem. Where he's been going lately, seems like maybe he's not quite as invested as he once was, and a little bit checked out. So I'm guessing if they could move him, they will, or they will possibly look at buying him out. Milwaukee maybe just motivated them to do it with what they did with Lillard, just being like, yeah, screw it. We're done with this contract. We'll stretch it out and we'll move on. But, I thought maybe Phoenix would be a team that would have tanked when they got rid of Kevin Durant, but they'll be interesting. It's just they play in the West, and the West is going to be difficult. But I think they could squeak into the playoffs with their roster currently, even including all 3 of those guys that I mentioned earlier on. Mark Williams is going to be a great addition as long as he can stay healthy. And I don't know, hey, maybe Dylan Brooks is the guy that pisses Bradley Beal off enough in practice to where he starts trying more,
Either him or Grayson Allen. They got 2 guys that could piss him off. And dude, honestly, like, the West is going to be so largely dominated by the state of Texas. I mean, you've got Houston, you've got Dallas, and you've got San Antonio. All 3 of those teams are going to be pretty nice this year. So Suns kind of got to battle that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, they still have Grayson Allen, Bradley Beal. I don't think will be in the picture. Devin Booker. You've got Dylan Brooks now. Rasheer Fleming. I think they got that pick. Jalen Green, Kamen Maliwak. You've got Monte Morris and Mark Williams. So, like, they've got some nice pieces. It's just the question of, is it going to come together? Now, I think we should dive into some teams that we don't think did very well. And it's only fair that we start with our own, because the Bulls haven't really done much. And their biggest move was one of the more questionable ones. So the Bulls re-signed Trey Jones. Great move. I think it was a great deal. 3 years, $24 million. I think that's a good number for him.
Yeah.
They traded Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro. Now, this is a guy who was probably a bigger bust than Lonzo Ball. And obviously Lonzo Ball has his health in question. But, like, what the fuck is going on with the Bulls, man?
Yeah. They got rid of some good shooting with Lonzo. I mean, Okoro is a 3-and-D guy, but he's not quite as efficient as Lonzo is in terms of shooting. Kind of a little weird trade, in my opinion. I don't really feel particularly strong one way or another in terms of it being great or it being terrible. It just kind of is what it is, in my opinion. I personally have loved Lonzo Ball. I wanted the Bulls to get Lonzo Ball for years.
Yes, you did.
I've always been a big fan of him. I felt like he was underappreciated quite a bit in the Lakers. But you know what? It's always it's a question with health with him. it was cool seeing him come back and battle through everything he did. But I mean, shoot, he was capped at like 13, 16 minutes a night when he came back for the Bulls, I want to say. I don't know if that's going to be like a permanent thing moving forward or if he's going to be able to build up more minutes. But I mean, if you're looking at it from an on-court availability perspective, obviously I get why they would look at a guy like Isaac Okoro, who you can run up and down the court all game if you need to. But I mean, like overall, I think Cleveland probably got the better player. But you know, Bulls are adding defense, which they need too. So I understand it from that perspective as well.
Yeah. I mean, Okoro's is in his 5th year in the league. He's 24, was drafted 5th overall, and just finished with 6 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist per game. So not great for a guy that was drafted 5th overall. And then you look at like the Bulls roster. This just for those of you who aren't Bulls fans, get ready to be really confused because this is just a bunch of names that just don't make sense. Modest, obviously, he's our star moving forward. You've got a guy like Zach Collins. He was productive for the Bulls, but what's he doing on the Bulls? You've got, obviously, Josh Giddey will more than likely resign. Talen Horton-Tucker, what's he doing on the Bulls? Kevin Huerter, absolutely get him off the Bulls. He's one of my least favorite of all time.
Kevin, stay together, dude. What are you talking about?
It's just terrible. You've got Jalen Smith. I think he'd be a good role player somewhere else. Dalen Terry, he was drafted high.
No, I love Jalen Smith.
Why?
I love because he provides good energy off the bench.
I mean,
He's good vibes, dude.
Like, what's he doing on the Bulls? He's only 25 years old.
Ballin'.
Go play for a contender, bro.
He's about to get a max contract.
You've got Dalen Terry, who's done nothing. You've got Nikola Vucevic, who they can't seem to find a trade for. Kobe White, who's more than likely going to be traded, it sounds like. Patrick Williams was just given, I think, $90 million and doesn't do shit. And just some other, like, role guys. But, like, this roster is just a hodgepodge of what the fuck.
It is rough. I agree with you that I think there's moves to be made for the Bulls, whether that be Kobe White or Ayo Dosunmu getting traded. We got a lot of guards. We got to do something. And also, too, it's just like we've been kind of playing like chicken with this whole Vucevic situation. Like he's been on the chopping block for like 2 years now. And it just seems like they can never get what they want for him, but they should just get something at this point because we're in the last freaking year of his contract and he's clearly not coming back. So you might as well just, take a 2nd-round pick and a player if that's what you're going to get, or take a 1st-round pick if that's what you're going to get. So, their roster is interesting. And not in a good way. They got things they need to figure out. They got a couple of good young pieces, but, it's just, it doesn't matter. Like, we're probably going to get the 2nd pick, and and that'll be our fate. We'll never win the lottery, but we'll get like 2nd or 3rd or 5th
or 11th,
maybe
12th.
Or maybe we'll lose a coin toss and get 12th instead of getting 1.
Yeah, that's insane. Sean's making a joke because we had a coin toss with the Dallas Mavericks, and Dallas won the coin toss, and we know what they did in the draft.
But
next,
it does sound like Josh Giddey's going to stay. He'll be coming back. He posted some cryptic thing on Instagram today of him in a Bulls jersey celebrating and had the ticking time emoji. So it sounds like they are ironing out a deal, which kind of has been expected. Look, as much as I wish the Bulls would full on commit to tanking and just go for picks, you got to keep some good players around too. Giddey's young. He's a guy that we can have a part of this team moving forward. I really like what he does, his overall game, his ability to distribute, things like that. So I'll be happy if they bring him, or if they keep him in Chicago, which seems like it's going to be the case. But obviously it's not official till it's official, so we're still waiting on that. But sounds like that'll be kind of their next move, and then maybe at that point they can start exploring trades, and because they know, all right, we're getting Giddey for X amount of dollars and X amount of years. He's going to impact the cap this way. So now we can figure out who we need to trade and what we need to do.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's like Golden State and you get a guy like Trace Jackson Davis and a 2nd-round pick, or, obviously, ideally, you want Kuminga out of that.
I'll take Steph Curry. Like that work.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just roll through these other teams, because these other teams are going to provide a whole lot of nothing, and the Warriors actually is one of them. They didn't re-sign any players. They didn't add any players. They lost Kevon Looney, whatever, however you say it. He signed with the Pelicans. So Warriors, not a whole lot of action there. Pacers.
But they got Will Richard.
Yeah. Indiana Pacers, not a whole lot of action there. Didn't re-sign any players.
Lost Miles Turner.
Add any players and lost Miles Turner. San Antonio Spurs. We talked about the fact that we like their draft, which is good for them, because outside of that, they haven't really done anything. Didn't re-sign anybody.
They gave like $40 million to Luke Cornett when they have Victor Wembanyama. That
4 years.
Just like, what are we doing?
I think it was like 41 or 44 million that they lost. Or that they signed. Portland Trail Blazers. Let me see, where are you at? Portland is here. So they re-signed Garrett Temple, 1-year deal. They got Drew Holiday, which the hell are you getting Drew Holiday for? Like, he's not going to want to play for you, and he has no business being on your team. They lost Anfernee Simons, which I really like him. I would love to see the Bulls go after him. And they, intentionally lost DeAndre Ayton. Anything
Who
you want
signed
to
with
add?
the Lakers as of today? 2 years, like $16.5 million, roughly.
Yeah. That's crazy. He's even getting that. And then
you
finally,
something
go ahead.
On the topic of DeAndre Ayton going to the Lakers, I saw this today, which is just pathetic. And it's also pathetic because I'll bring up another point about what this guy did recently. But LeBron James has now played with 9 number 1 overall picks, the most out of any player in NBA history. And he also recently, through his agent, came out and basically said, like, I'm not sold on what the Lakers are doing. And it's like opening the door to a trade when they literally just traded for Luka Doncic last year. Like, what else do you want them to do? They got arguably the best player in basketball last year. And that's not good enough for you.
And they rigged the draft so that way he could play with his son.
Yeah, it's like, you're such a loser, dude.
Yeah. He's
are we still going on basketball here, or are we wrapping up? I have breaking news, but I'll wait till we're done.
Is it baseball?
Yes.
Yeah, I just saw that too. Jeff?
Yep.
Passan? Or Passan?
Yep.
However you say it. Yeah, I'll let you drop that.
All right, so breaking news, and there will be more coming here shortly. All-Star Game starters have been announced. So here's what we got for starting infield. They will announce, I think, outfield tonight too, so we'll get that information as it comes available. National League starting infield for the All-Star Game. Catcher Will Smith from the Dodgers. First baseman Freddie Freeman from the Dodgers. Second baseman Ketel Marte from the Diamondbacks. Shortstop Francisco Lindor from the Mets. Third base Manny Machado from the Padres. Starting infield for the American League team. Catcher Cal Raleigh, a.k.a. Big Dumper, out of the Seattle Mariners.
Beast.
First base Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from the Blue Jays. Second base Gleyber Torres from the Detroit Tigers. I almost said the Yankees. He's not on them anymore. Shortstop, fun guy of the season, and Jacob Wilson out of the Sacramento / Vegas / Oakland Athletics. Third base Miguel Vargas of the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, if only, Sean.
Third base Jose Ramirez, Cleveland Guardians.
You were just
that is your...
checking to see if I was paying attention.
Yeah, I was. So that is our starters for the infield, and I'm guessing we'll get outfield as we're recording. I'll keep an eye, and I'll mention that as that comes available.
None of these are super surprising to me. I mean, the name that I was a little surprised to hear until I looked at his numbers was Manny Machado. He's hitting 292, 13 bombs, 50 RBIs, OPS of 831. So, like, yeah, he's having a pretty solid year. Gleyber Torres is one that I think we should probably talk about because he's a guy that kind of struggled for the Yankees for a while and has just kind of found his rhythm in Detroit. He's hitting 280. He's got 9 homers, 43 RBIs, and an OPS of 818. So nice for him to make the All-Star team. What's your initial reaction here?
I think they got it right. I don't really see anyone that I don't agree with. I think maybe like Brandon Lau was in the conversation for second base, but Torres kind of has earned it. Especially just the kind of little, I don't know if you want to call it career revival. He had a really good rookie year with the Yankees and has kind of fallen off quite a bit since then, but found himself in Detroit. Maybe got a little bit of protection there in that lineup. Not to say that he didn't have that in New York, because New York's star-studded. But, I mean, Detroit's got guys like Riley Green who are tearing it up this year, and they got, like, other guys like Zach McKinstry who has had some good runs, and I don't know, they just got a lot of solid guys in their lineup too, so there's not exactly an easy out necessarily. But yeah, no, I think this is good. Will Smith deserves it at catcher. Freddie Freeman obviously deserves it. Ketel Marte has been great this year. Lindor, I think he got snubbed last year, but was his second in MVP voting, so now he's able to be a starter. And then, yeah, Jacob Wilson's fun. He's a rookie, so obviously the Rookie of the Year front runner at this point. But yeah, no, I like all these. I can't say I disagree with any.
I have to say, I mean, I think he'll still make the roster. I'm a little upset for Jonathan Aranda from Tampa Bay. This is a guy, I was just looking it up. Vlad's WAR on this season so far is 2.5. He's at 3.1. Vlad's got 12 homers. He's got 10. Vlad's got 44 RBIs. He's got 45. But this dude's hitting 320, and he's played 2 less games than Vlad. So, like, I think he'll probably make the All-Star team in some fashion or another, whether he's like an add-on or like a reserve. But, but like, I don't know, to put forth that kind of season and not get the votes kind of sucks. But it's Vlad.
He's not going to make it because Miguel Vargas is going to be a reserve for third base and first base.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, sucks for you, Jonathan.
Yeah, Vlad's a household name, and part of it's fan voting. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
So, got more breaking news. Speaking of career revitalization,
oh, wow.
Javier Baez will be starting in the outfield for the American League.
That's something.
All it took was him having to switch to the outfield to suddenly become the Javi Baez everyone knew before.
I don't see his stats for this year because I know he's having a really solid year. I just don't know what it looks like right now. 285, 9 home runs, 36 RBIs, OPS of 783. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty solid year. Whatever. I think there's other guys that are more deserving. Riley Green, definitely one of them. So we'll have to see what the reserves look like. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out here soon.
Reserves we'll probably find out at a later date. This is just starters that they're doing tonight, I think.
Yeah. When is the All-Star game? Do we know?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Is the MLB?
No, it's I think it's not. I think it's next weekend or no, it might be the week after next.
July 15th.
Yeah.
So we'll probably find out reserves like next week. Okay. Well, we'll continue if we notice something. We'll continue to mention any other news when it comes to All-Star Weekend. Do you want to just talk about like a couple big names on the NHL free agency, and then we can just round it out with Chicago stuff with Blackhawks and Bulls?
Yeah. So NHL free agency started this week. Brock Besser, Mitch Marner, Nicola Ehlers, I'm probably botching that last name. We're all some of the bigger names for free agency. And Marner did not even hit the market. He did a sign and trade. He is headed to the Las Vegas Golden Knights. So Vegas is bolstering up. It seemed like that was going to be his destination all along. guys who are insiders and hockey reporters kind of mentioned that seemed like a realistic possibility. And it always seemed like sign and trade was going to be the route just because they didn't want to risk losing him once he hit the market. So they got it done, I think, the day before, or it might have been the morning before free agency opened. So that was the big domino to fall. Brock Besser kind of had a surprising return to Vancouver. He signed for 7 years there. I think most people expected him to leave. There were some rumblings that Edmonton was a possibility for him, but ultimately he ended up staying in Vancouver. And then Ehlers, to be determined, still feeling it out. I think it sounds like Carolina might win the sweepstakes for him. Carolina also just pulled off a trade for defenseman Keandre Miller and signed him to a long-term contract. So Carolina's really making some noise here. Especially if they are able to land Ehlers. I like what they're doing. Otherwise, it's just kind of been other signings and stuff. So those were kind of the most notable ones. What did you think about those signings?
Yeah. I heard some stuff about Mitch. Well, correct me if I'm wrong here. I heard some stuff about, I think it was Mitch Marner, where in his presser, people were kind of like, oh, so it sounds like you were planning this move all along. 'Cause did he say something about like looking at properties or something like that?
I saw something. I didn't read into it. Apparently, he was talking to some guys during the Four Nations about living in Las Vegas and what that was like.
Oh, so people are just kind of
So,
cherry picking.
yeah. And I mean, I would be curious. Hey, what's it like living in Vegas? Seems like a fun place. You having a good time out there or what? You're probably wondering.
It's a
Nothing
name
wrong with
that he was a name that like some Blackhawks fans really wanted to see the Blackhawks go after too. I don't think they were going to at the end of the day. I'd be surprised if they even reached out to his representatives, but yeah,
I'm sure they reached out. They probably said, hey, we can probably predict where this is going, but just to confirm, Mitch is not interested in playing in Chicago. And they probably said yes, he does not want to play there.
Hey, did Mitch ask about what it's like to live in Chicago by chance? Like, did he ask about properties there? No? Okay, got it.
Hey, just wanted to send you this Connor Bedard highlight. Check this out.
All right. Well, speaking of Chicago, let's jump to Chicago topics. Blackhawks draft recap. Sean, I'll let you start there. I'm actually going to pull up the names. Do you have it pulled up?
I was going to let you take it away. This is your time to shine.
So they made some draft picks, and the guys are supposed to be good. And one guy is a quarterback in high school, and they don't know if he's going to actually play hockey, but if he does, he could be really good. And that's the recap I have for you.
Not bad. So Blackhawks had, going into the night, 2 first-round picks, and then Kyle Davidson's been doing this thing the last couple of years where he just was like, hey, I've got these extra second-round picks. Let me trade back into the first. So 2 years in a row, they've had now 3 first-round picks. So going into the draft, there was a debate whether or not Michael Misa would fall to the Blackhawks at 3. Seemed like that was going to be a possibility heading into the day of the draft, but ultimately he ended up going second overall to the Sharks as expected. So that left the Blackhawks with Anton Frondell, who they drafted. He is a center out of Sweden. He is about 6'1", 6'2", depending on where you look. 204 pounds, so a little bit thicker of a build. So he brings a nice two-way game to the prospect pool, which the Blackhawks really do need. He also brings size to the prospect pool, which the Blackhawks also need. So once we figured out that Misa wasn't going to be the guy, it was easy to like what Frondell could bring. Their other 2 first-round picks, Vaclav Nestrasil. He is a right wing. He is 6'6", 185 pounds. And then Mason West, a center out of Edina, Minnesota. He is 6'7", 218 pounds. So Kyle added a lot of size in this draft, which I said it before and I'll say it again. The Blackhawks need. So I like what he did there. Nestrasil is kind of your dirty, physical violent type of guy. So he'll be a nice addition. Some people were kind of saying like, oh, he's the Bufflin that the Blackhawks need.
Hell yeah.
So he'll be a nice addition. He's currently playing in the USHL for Muskegon. Don't quite know what his next route's going to be. Actually, no, he's committed to play hockey at UMass, and I believe he's going to play for UMass. So he'll be going to the college hockey route. Mason West, he's the guy out of Minnesota. He's really interesting. He is the high school quarterback Kevin was talking about. People were speculating he might not be quite as committed to hockey as they maybe thought. He's actually going back to high school to play football in the fall, and people are maybe worried that some D1 offers could come in. He shot that down in his post-draft press conference. Now, I don't know if that's him just saying that because he was just drafted, but he said, like, I am fully committed to hockey. That is the route that I'm going. So people are really intrigued by this pick. They think that it could be like a boom or bust thing. They're really excited to see what he'll look like once he focuses on hockey. He is a guy that's committed to Michigan State. After he is done playing football, he is going to go play in the USHL for the Fargo Force. So he'll go finish out this year in Fargo, and then he will go play for Michigan State after that. So we're looking at a guy that it'll probably be a little bit before he makes his way to the Blackhawks, but going to be someone that's fun to follow, and maybe I'll make my way out to a Fargo Force game this year. We'll see. But
Say that.
really exciting. I like what they did. Time's going to tell just how well all these guys do or what they turn into, but for Kyle to just go ahead and add a bunch of size, I think that was a need that the Blackhawks had, so happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, the shortest dude they got was 6'2". So
Yep.
that kind of tells you 6'2", 6'6", 6'7", 6'4", 6'5". It's just kind of just big and tall. All right, well, I think that kind of keeps things simple. Did you want to add any notes about like their free agency? Or I know they haven't made a ton of moves, just one guy that they got back now for the third time.
Yeah, I got Sam Lafferty back.
Yeah.
He'll be just depth. And then they signed another guy. I got to look him up. They're really not doing anything.
Yeah.
Let's see here. They signed Dominic Toninato to a 2-year, $850,000 salary cap hit. So, 2-way contract. He's a guy that primarily played in the AHL last year, which is where the Rockford Ice Hogs play. So, maybe looking at a guy that'll head back there and just be a little bit of depth, get the call when he needs to, and otherwise play in Rockford. Not quite sure what they're going to do with him, but so the Blackhawks virtually did nothing. Kind of interesting, I guess. You're getting to the point where Bedard is getting ready to sign a new contract, and you really haven't done anything to help him out in his whole time in Chicago. I think that is a little damning. Now, he's openly said how much he enjoys being in Chicago. I'd be shocked if he didn't sign another deal here, but I would be a little frustrated if I were him, just in terms of like, look, I'm going to be running with Ryan Donato again. Like, that's not exactly the most exciting thing in the world for Blackhawks fans. It might be, but we don't really have much on our roster. So they clearly are set on giving the young guys opportunity, which I can agree with. I can get behind that. Kind of like how we talked about the White Sox this year, giving the young guys playing time. Seems like that's the route that the Blackhawks are going to go. And I'm guessing it's probably going to be another rough season, but next year's draft is, especially at the top, very, very, very good. Much better than this year's draft, especially if you can get the first pick. A guy by the name of Gavin McKenna. He is the prize of next year's draft. So, hey, maybe we get lucky and we get the first pick again, and then we're rolling out with Connor Bedard and Gavin McKenna for the future. That would be pretty damn awesome. But we'll see if we get lucky. Just in terms of other teams in the NHL as of right now, I don't really see anyone worse than the Blackhawks. So I think we'll be in the mix for that first overall pick. It'll just depend on how the lottery balls fall at that time. So brace yourselves for another tough season. Not going to be too fun, but should be exciting to watch some young guys. And hopefully, as it seems they are, they'll give them a lot of time. They'll give them a lot of looks, and we got to start figuring out what guys are going to be a part of this thing moving forward. I will say, maybe this is just me being a White Sox fan and knowing how this can go. I am a little nervous that the Blackhawks are too insistent that their prospects are going to hit. I feel like they need to supplement this roster with talent outside of the organization. I just have a hard time believing that all these guys are going to be good, and you should not think like our prospects are going to be the guys moving forward. I think even Kyle Davidson had some quote where he said like the best way to build a roster is to draft and develop them. That is much easier said than done, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, and history goes to show that too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
look at the Blackhawks prospects since they made their Stanley Cup run. Like, we haven't really had a ton of success developing guys and picking good talent. So,
To be fair, Stan Bowman did trade away a lot of their first round picks, but they also didn't really amount to much.
yeah, I mean, look at like the bread man, perfect example. Like, he should have been with the organization, for the long
Still
term.
be here.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well then let's jump to the other team in the same building. Bulls draft recap.
Before we do that,
Yeah.
I do have more breaking news.
Okay.
Final breaking news.
Okay.
All right, outfield starters for the American League. Luis Robert Jr., Michael A. Taylor, Andrew Benintendi.
Yeah. For like AAA.
We got Aaron Judge, obviously Javier Baez, who we mentioned, and Riley Green, Javier Baez's teammate. Starting at DH, we have Ryan O'Hearn from Baltimore.
It's our dog.
Yep. And then here we go. National League starters for the outfield. Ronald Acuna Jr. And now this is where it gets fun. We got Pete Crow Armstrong from the Cubs and Kyle Tucker from the Cubs. So 2 Chicago Cubs making the starting lineup there. And then Shohei Ohtani is the DH. So, yeah. Fun fact about the starters, Javier Baez was traded for Pete Crow Armstrong, and now they're both starting in the All-Star game. So
The NL should fuck up the AL. Like, that roster is loaded.
yeah, I would think so.
AL's got
But
quite a few like first-time All-Stars too.
But I mean, if you get your Shane Smiths and your Steven Wilsons and your Sean Burks and your Miguel Vargases on the AL team, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, right. All right, well let's jump to the Bulls. We can start with the draft recap. They had 2 picks. One they decided to stick with in the first round at 12 overall. Noah Asenge. He is a 6'8" forward out of France. This is a guy that I think we're just going to have to wait and see. He's got quite the wingspan. He was applauded for his defense and just overall toughness. He's going to have to hit the weight room. He's going to have to develop a shot because literally his highlight tape was just like nothing but dunks. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm like, dude, if you're 6'8" and your highlight tape is nothing but dunks, like that's not saying much. He has a pretty high ceiling. There's a lot of people that gave this a really good grade, and honestly, I'm willing to be patient. I think I'm just kind of tired of the Bulls' approach with the draft because sure, this guy could end up being great, but like, okay, now what? You have Modis who's going to lead the team. You'll probably trade away Kobe White. So like, who's going to be putting up shots for this team? He's certainly not. So he was one guy.
Patrick Williams won't.
Yeah, exactly. So he was taken 12th overall. Sean, what do you want to add to him before I get to the other guy?
I think he's going to take some development, but I like some of the traits that he has. I think him being able to step in and play defense is going to be a boost to the Bulls no matter what he provides offensively. We just aren't quite a good defensive team. So that'll be a nice boost. It's just going to take time, and I always worry, are the Bulls the right team to develop this guy? That's always the question. But I guess if there's one thing that we can have a little bit of confidence in is that Arturas Karnisovas has done good scouting internationally. So maybe he sees something that he likes, obviously sees something that he likes out of Noah Esengwe. And maybe he'll be a big impact piece. We'll see. But yeah, it's just, we're going to have to be patient. And at the same time too, he's going to need to get minutes. He's going to have to get out there. He's going to have to see what he can do against NBA players. And, it's going to be rough at times, but that's the only way this kid's going to get better is just being able to go up against guys consistently, Yeah. We don't need to be doing this bullshit bouncing around to the G League or coming up and playing 2 minutes a night. He needs minutes. We saw it with Modest. He was kind of inconsistent for a lot of his first half of his rookie season, and then look what happened once he started playing more. Now, Modest is a much different player than Noah Esengwe, and Modest had the luxury of playing against G League guys already, but it's just we need to get these guys minutes, and we need to develop them.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how this roster shapes out, that might not be much of an issue. The only downside is he is a forward, not a guard. So we have a lot of guards we can ship out. The forwards, I don't think we're really going anywhere. Other guy is Lachlan Ulbrich. He is a 6'10 forward, based out of Australia, I believe. Went to college at UC Riverside. He was drafted 55th overall. There was actually a lot of praise for this pick. I even heard one guy go as far to say that he's a poor man's Domantas Sabonis. He plays a very similar style of basketball as Sabonis. And honestly, I think Sabonis is one of the most underrated players in the entire NBA. So to hear something like that, and even if that means a bench version of him for 55th overall, I feel like that's pretty good value.
I don't really have much on him. Haven't really watched much of him. I haven't really paid attention too much. I do see people like some of the traits that he has. He does more than just play your typical big man basketball. So that'll be interesting. That's about all I got.
Yeah, his highlight tape was actually pretty interesting. He had one game. Here we go. Australian basketball player. He averaged 11 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist per game in his career at UC Riverside. He had a game, I don't know if it was prepping for the Olympics or something, but his stats were just absolutely ridiculous in that game. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I mean this is
I think it was at the combine or something. I think
it was
30. He had 30 and 17 or something.
Yeah, something crazy, dude. So this is a guy that, I think he's going to be the type that's just fighting for minutes. And maybe he earns them. Maybe he earns quality minutes. Who knows? But 55th overall, whatever. It's a flyer. We'll see. Anything?
Yeah, I mean, the Bulls did pretty much admit they had no plans to really try to make an impact swing in the second round. They traded back and said they'll continue to do that, or they'll even do a draft and stash. So we'll see what this guy ends up doing. He's stateside, he was here doing intro shit. So he's around. Hoping he gets to the summer league and we can see him there at least, and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean they basically said they were punting without saying they were punting. So we'll see. That's all we have for today. I mean, I know we went pretty heavy with the NBA, even ending with the NBA as well, but it's just that time of year. There's not a whole lot going on. Summer League, though, me and Sean are going to pick our teams once the rosters come out. If it happens before next episode, we'll tell you who we picked, and hopefully they're good this year like my Grizzlies were last year. But that's all, y'all. Anything you want to add before we go, Sean?
Nope, just looking forward to picking a summer league winner.
Yeah,
and watching every game.
I actually probably will, especially if Modest is going to play. All right, y'all. Thanks as always for hanging out with us. We will probably be back in 2 weeks unless a lot happens between now and next week. But thanks always for hanging out, and we'll talk to you guys soon.